Jake Morrison stood in the cold metal room, looking at the holographic screen in front of him. The blue light made his scarred face look even more dangerous than usual. His dark eyes studied the image of a woman with brown hair and kind eyes. Her name was Dr. Lisa Harper, and according to the file, she was the most wanted criminal in the galaxy. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Admiral Vex walked in, his tall alien form casting a shadow across the room. His skin was gray and rough like stone, and his forearms moved in perfect rhythm as he approached. The Zephyrian had been Jake's handler for the past 10 years, giving him targets to hunt and kill. "This is your most important mission, Morrison," Vex said, his voice deep and cold. "The woman you see here has stolen information that could destroy the peace we have worked so hard to build." Jake nodded, but said nothing. He had learned long ago not to ask too many questions. Questions made handlers nervous, and nervous handlers made life difficult for hunters like him. Dr. Lisa Harper was working at the research facility on Kepler 442b, Vex continued. She was part of a team studying alien diseases. 3 weeks ago, she broke into the secure files and stole classified research. Then she killed 2 guards and escaped. Jake looked at the woman's face again. She looked like a teacher or a mother, not a killer. But looks could be deceiving. He had hunted many targets who seemed innocent at first glance. What kind of research did she steal? Jake asked. Vex's red eyes narrowed. Biological weapons. The kind that could wipe out entire planets. She also took files about genetic experiments that are too dangerous for anyone to possess. Jake felt the familiar cold feeling in his chest. It was the same feeling he got before every hunt. His enhanced senses began to sharpen, and the cybernetic implants in his brain started processing hunting patterns. The Council had made him into the perfect predator, and he had never failed a mission. Where was she last seen? Jake asked. Titan 7, in the mining sector. She was spotted at a medical clinic 3 days ago. Local security tried to arrest her, but she disappeared before they could get close. Jake memorized every detail of Lisa's face. Her height, weight, the way she walked, even the small scar on her left hand. In 15 years of hunting, he had learned that details kept you alive and helped you catch your prey. She is human, like you, Vex said, watching Jake carefully. The Council chose you for this mission because humans are difficult to track. They think differently than other species. They are unpredictable. Jake had heard this before. The Council often used him to hunt other humans because they said he understood how human minds worked. What they didn't know was that Jake often felt sorry for his human targets. There was something about hunting his own kind that made him uncomfortable, though he would never admit it. What are my orders? Jake asked. Find her, kill her, bring back the stolen data. Vex handed him a small device. This contains everything we know about her background, her training, and her possible contacts. Study it carefully. Jake took the device and clipped it to his belt. Any restrictions? None. Use whatever methods you need. The Council considers her an extreme threat to galactic security. Vex moved toward the door, then stopped. Morrison, this woman is dangerous. She has been trained in combat and survival. Do not underestimate her, because she looks harmless. After Vex left, Jake stood alone in the room, still looking at Lisa's picture. Something about this mission felt different from the others. Usually, his targets were criminals, pirates, or war criminals. Their files were full of crimes and violence. But Lisa Harper's file was mostly blank except for her work as a doctor and scientist. Jake walked to his ship, a sleek black vessel designed for stealth and speed. The Council had given him the best equipment available, and his ship could travel faster than almost anything else in the galaxy. He climbed into the pilot's seat and started the engine's dot as the ship lifted off from the space station. Jake activated the device Vex had given him. Lisa's file appeared on his screen, and he began to read. She had been born on Earth, in a small town in America. Her parents were doctors, and she had followed in their footsteps. She specialized in genetic research and had spent years studying how different alien species could fight diseases. The file mentioned that she had no criminal record, no history of violence, and no known connections to terrorist groups. In fact, her colleagues described her as someone who cared deeply about helping others. She had volunteered at free clinics and had donated most of her salary to charity. Jake frowned as he read. This didn't match the profile of someone who would steal weapons and kill guards. But the evidence was clear. Security cameras had recorded her breaking into the restricted files, and DNA evidence linked her to the crime scene. His ship entered hyperspace, and the stars became long streaks of light outside his window. The journey to Titan 7 would take 2 days, giving him time to plan his approach. Jake had learned that the best way to catch a target was to think like them. He needed to understand why Lisa had stolen the research and where she might go next. As he studied her file, Jake began to notice things that didn't make sense. The stolen research wasn't about weapons at all. It was about genetic compatibility between different species. The files she had taken contained information about ancient DNA, patterns and evolutionary connections between aliens and humans. Jake's enhanced brain began to process this information. Why would someone steal genetic research? What could Lisa Harper do with information about DNA compatibility? And why did the Council consider this so dangerous? The ship's computer beeped, indicating they were halfway to their destination. Jake closed the file and leaned back in his chair. In less than 2 days, he would begin hunting Dr. Lisa Harper. He had never failed a mission, and he didn't plan to start now. But something deep in his mind whispered that this hunt would be different from all the others. Something told him that when he finally found Lisa Harper, everything he thought he knew about the galaxy would change forever. Jake's ship dropped out of hyperspace near Titan 7. The mining planet looked like a giant rock covered in metal structures and smoke. Thousands of workers lived here, digging rare metals from deep underground. It was the kind of place where people came to disappear, which made it perfect for someone on the run. He landed at the main spaceport and showed his council identification to the security guards. They immediately became nervous and helpful, offering him anything he needed. Jake's reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous hunter had spread to even the smallest planets. "I need to speak to whoever runs the medical clinic in Sector 7. Jake told the port commander. The commander, a short alien with blue skin and too many eyes, nodded quickly. "That would be Dr. Kane. He runs the free clinic there." "But sir, that area is very dangerous. Lots of criminals and desperate people." Jake almost smiled. Dangerous places were where he worked best. "Get me a vehicle. I'll find my own way." The ride through Titan 7 showed Jake how hard life was for the people here. The air was thick with dust and smoke from the mining operations. Children played in the streets between broken buildings. Workers walked with their heads down, looking tired and hopeless. When Jake reached the clinic, he found a long line of people waiting outside. Families with sick children, injured workers, and elderly people who couldn't afford real medical care. The clinic was just a small building with basic equipment, but it was the only medical help these people had. Dr. Kane was a middle-aged human with gray hair and gentle hands. He looked up nervously when Jake walked into his office. Jake's black military uniform and obvious weapons made it clear he wasn't there for medical help. "I'm looking for this woman," Jake said, showing Kane a picture of Lisa Harper. "She was here 3 days ago." Kane's face became very careful and blank. "I see many patients. I don't remember everyone who comes here." Jake studied the doctor's face. He was lying, but not because he was a criminal. He was lying to protect someone. Dr. Kane, I work for the Galactic Council. The woman I'm looking for is a dangerous criminal. If you help her, you become a criminal too. Kane's hands shook slightly, but his voice stayed steady. I told you. I don't remember her. Jake walked around the small office, looking at the medical supplies and equipment. Everything was old and worn, but clean and well-maintained. Pictures on the walls showed Kane with patients he had helped over the years. This was a good man doing his best in a hard place. What if I told you she killed 2 guards when she escaped? Jake asked. Kane looked surprised. That doesn't sound like her at all. Jake stopped moving. So you do remember her? Kane closed his eyes and sighed. She was here for 2 days. She helped me treat patients and taught me new techniques for treating mining injuries. She didn't act like a criminal. She acted like someone who cared about helping people. What did she tell you about herself? She said she was running from people who wanted to stop her research. She said she had discovered something important about human genetics, but powerful people didn't want the truth to come out. Kane looked directly at Jake. She said there were hunters coming after her, people who had been changed to be perfect killers. Jake felt something cold move through his chest. Did she say anything else? She asked me about the old stories, the ones about humans being different from other species. She wanted to know if I had ever heard legends about humans having special abilities. Kane paused. She said humans used to be much more than what we are now. Jake left the clinic with more questions than answers. He spent the rest of the day tracking Lisa's movements through the mining colony. She had helped at 3 different medical stations, fixed a broken water recycler in the poorest district, and taught a group of children how to read. For someone who was supposed to be a dangerous terrorist, Lisa Harper seemed to spend all her time helping people. That evening, Jake sat in his ship and reviewed the evidence again. The security footage from the research facility showed Lisa entering the restricted area, but something bothered him about the video. He enhanced the image and watched it again, frame by frame. The woman in the video moved like a soldier, not like a scientist. Her stance was wrong, her movements too aggressive. Jake had studied thousands of hours of surveillance footage, and he knew how different types of people moved. This wasn't Lisa Harper breaking into the facility Jake accessed the facility's personnel records through his council authorization. He found Lisa's work schedule and compared it to the time of the break-in. According to the records, Lisa had been in surgery at the colony hospital when the theft occurred. She had been saving the life of a child who had been hurt in a mining accident. Someone had used her identity to steal the research. But who? And why frame her for the crime? Jake's enhanced brain began processing possibilities. If Lisa wasn't the thief, then someone wanted her to look guilty. Someone wanted the council to hunt her down and kill her. But why? What had she discovered that made her so dangerous? He thought about what Dr. Kane had said about humans being different from other species. Jake had always known he was stronger and faster than normal humans, but he had assumed that was because of his enhancements. What if the enhancements had simply awakened something that was already there? Jake's computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from his contact network, people who traded information across the galaxy. The message was short. Your target was seen on Vega Station. She's not hiding anymore. She's looking for something. Jake set course for the Vega system, but his mind was racing. If Lisa wasn't hiding, what was she doing? And what could she be looking for on an abandoned research station? During the 3-day journey, Jake researched everything he could find about Vega Station. It had been built 50 years ago to study ancient alien artifacts. The station had been abandoned after a disaster that killed most of the research team. The official reports said it was an accident, but Jake found several classified files that suggested something else had happened. The station had been studying artifacts from a race called the Architects. According to the files, the Architects had disappeared millions of years ago, but they had left behind technology that was far more advanced than anything the current galactic civilizations possessed. The research team had been trying to understand how the Architect technology worked when the station went dark. Jake felt a strange feeling in his chest as he read about the Architects. Something about them seemed familiar, like a memory he couldn't quite reach. His enhanced brain tried to process the feeling, but it was unlike anything in his programming. When Jake arrived at Vega Station, he found Lisa's ship docked at the main airlock. She wasn't trying to hide or escape. She was waiting for him. Jake put on his environmental suit and entered the station. The corridors were dark and cold, lit only by emergency lighting. His enhanced senses picked up Lisa's trail immediately. She was in the main research lab, 3 levels down. As Jake walked through the abandoned station, he passed laboratories full of strange equipment and computer terminals that still displayed research data. The scientists had been studying genetic patterns in the Architect artifacts. They had been trying to understand how the ancient race had built their technology. Jake reached the main lab and found Lisa standing in front of a large display screen. She wasn't armed, and she didn't look afraid. She looked like someone who had been expecting him. "Hello, Jake," she said without turning around. "I've been waiting for you." Jake kept his weapon ready, but something felt wrong. This wasn't how hunts were supposed to go. "Dr. Lisa Harper, you're under arrest for theft of classified materials and murder." Lisa turned around and looked at him with sad eyes. "I didn't steal anything, and I didn't kill anyone." "But I think you already know that." Jake studied her face. She was telling the truth. "Then why are you here? Why aren't you running?" "Because I need to show you something. Something that will change everything you think you know about yourself and about our species." Lisa gestured to the display screen. "The Council has been lying to us, Jake. They've been lying for thousands of years." On the screen was a genetic analysis that made Jake's enhanced brain struggle to process what he was seeing. According to the data, humans and the ancient Architects weren't different species at all. They were the same species, separated by millions of years of evolution and genetic manipulation. "The Council has been suppressing human development for centuries," Lisa said. "They've been keeping us weak and divided because they know what we really are. They know what we're capable of." Jake's weapon slowly lowered as he stared at the screen. "What are you talking about? We're not the primitive species they tell the galaxy we are, Jake. We're the descendants of the most advanced race that ever existed. And the Council has been doing everything they can to make sure we never remember who we really are." Jake stared at the genetic data on the screen, his enhanced brain trying to process what he was seeing. The numbers and patterns made no sense according to everything he had been taught about human biology. According to this research, humans possess dormant genetic sequences that match the Architect artifacts perfectly. "This is impossible," Jake said, but his voice sounded uncertain, even to himself. Lisa moved to another console and brought up more data. 6 months ago, I was working on a project to help humans resist alien diseases. I noticed something strange in our DNA. We have genetic markers that don't match our evolutionary history. Sequences that are too complex, too advanced for a species that supposedly evolved on one planet." Jake lowered his weapon completely. "Even if this is true, what does it matter? The past is the past. It matters because the Council has been actively suppressing these genes," Lisa said. "They've been putting chemicals in our food, our water, our air. They've been using medical treatments that keep our dormant abilities from activating. They've been keeping us weak on purpose." Something deep in Jake's mind began to stir. Images flashed through his thoughts, memories that weren't his own. He saw vast cities floating in space, beings that looked human but could do impossible things, and technology that seemed to work through thought alone. The enhancements they gave you, Lisa continued, they weren't adding alien technology to your body. They were removing the genetic blocks that kept your natural abilities suppressed. You're not a cyborg, Jake. You're a human with your full genetic potential partially activated. Jake felt a strange sensation in his chest, like something was waking up inside him. That's not possible. I've seen the surgical scars. I know what they put in me. Lisa walked over to him slowly, her hands visible and non-threatening. The scars are real, but they're not from adding implants. They're from removing the genetic suppressors that were built into your DNA. The Council has been using enhanced humans like you as weapons against your own species, and you never knew it. Jake's enhanced senses suddenly became much stronger. He could hear Lisa's heartbeat, smell her fear and determination, and see heat patterns through the walls of the station. But these weren't mechanical enhancements. They felt natural, like abilities he had always possessed but never used. Why are you showing me this? Jake asked. Why not just run? Because you're not the only one, Jake. There are thousands of humans across the galaxy who have been enhanced like you. The Council has been using them as hunters, soldiers, and assassins. But if they knew the truth, if they understood what they really are, they would stop being weapons and start being what humans were meant to be. Jake felt another wave of strange memories. He saw himself as a child, before the enhancements, doing things that should have been impossible. Moving objects with his mind, healing cuts by touching them, knowing things without being told. But those memories had been suppressed, locked away by the Council's genetic manipulation. The research I took from the facility, Lisa said, it contains the genetic key to removing all the suppressors. Not just for enhanced humans like you, but for all humans. It would allow our species to remember who we really are. Jake's mind raced. The Council would never allow that. They would kill every human in the galaxy before they let us regain our abilities. That's why they sent you to kill me, Lisa said. They know I have the key to human liberation. They want to stop me before I can share it with others. Jake felt his worldview crumbling. Everything he had believed about himself, about humans, about the galaxy's history, was a lie. The Council hadn't been maintaining peace. They had been maintaining their own power by keeping the most advanced species in the galaxy trapped in ignorance. How do I know you're telling the truth? Jake asked. Lisa smiled sadly. Because I can prove it. The genetic key doesn't just unlock human potential. It also unlocks human memories. Memories of who we used to be, what we used to know, and what we're capable of becoming. She moved to a medical station in the corner of the lab. I've been working on a treatment that can remove the genetic blocks safely. It's not perfect, but it works. I can show you what you really are, Jake. But once you see it, you can never go back to being the Council's weapon. Jake looked at the medical equipment, then at Lisa's determined face. What happens if you're wrong? What if this kills me? Then you die as a human, not as a tool of the species that enslaved us, Lisa said. But I don't think I'm wrong. I think you've been feeling the changes already. Your abilities are getting stronger, aren't they? You're remembering things that don't match your official history. Jake realized she was right. Over the past few days, he had been experiencing sensations and memories that didn't fit with his training. His enhanced abilities had been growing stronger, and he had been having dreams about ancient civilizations and advanced technology. If I do this, if I let you remove the genetic blocks, what happens then? Jake asked. Then you become what you were always meant to be, Lisa said. A guardian, not a hunter. A protector, not a weapon. A human who remembers that our species was created to help others, not to serve those who fear us. Jake thought about all the humans he had hunted and killed over the years. Had they been criminals, or had they been people who were starting to remember their true nature? Had he been eliminating his own kind to protect the Council's lies? The other enhanced humans, Jake said. Are they like me? Some of them, Lisa said. The genetic blocks don't work perfectly on everyone. Some humans start to remember on their own. Those are the ones the Council usually sends you to eliminate. Jake felt sick. How many of my own people have I killed? It doesn't matter now, Lisa said gently. What matters is what you choose to do next. You can complete your mission, kill me, and continue being the Council's weapon. Or you can help me free our species from the prison they've built around. You, Jake looked at his hands. Were they the hands of a killer? Or were they the hands of someone who could heal and protect? The choice seemed simple, but the consequences would change everything. What would happen if all humans regained their abilities? Jake asked. We would become what we were millions of years ago, Lisa said. The guardians of the galaxy. Not its rulers, but its protectors. We would use our abilities to help other species grow and develop, not to control them. Jake thought about Dr. Kane on Titan VII, helping the poor and injured despite having almost no resources. He thought about the human colonies he had visited, where people worked together to build better lives for their families. Even with their abilities suppressed, humans seemed to have a natural desire to help and protect others. If I do this, Jake said, there's no going back. The Council will hunt us both. Lisa nodded. But we won't be alone. There are other humans across the galaxy who are ready to wake up. We can find them, help them remember, and together we can build something better than the Council's empire of fear. Jake made his decision. He walked to the medical station and sat down. Show me what I really am. Lisa prepared the treatment, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were doing. This might hurt, she said. You're going to experience millions of years of suppressed memories all at once. Your brain might not be able to handle it all. Jake closed his eyes. I've been living a lie my entire life. A little pain is worth the truth. Lisa activated the treatment, and Jake felt something change deep in his DNA. The genetic blocks that had been suppressing his abilities for his entire life began to dissolve, and with them came a flood of memories and sensations that threatened to overwhelm his mind. He saw the rise and fall of the architect civilization. He witnessed the Council's betrayal and the systematic suppression of human development. He felt the pain of millions of humans who had lived and died without ever knowing their true potential. But he also felt something else, a connection to every human who had ever lived, and a deep understanding of what his species was meant to become. He was no longer just Jake Morrison, the Council's weapon. He was Jake Morrison, heir to the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. When the treatment ended, Jake opened his eyes and looked at Lisa with new understanding. She wasn't just a scientist he had been sent to kill. She was a member of his species, a fellow heir to the architect legacy, and someone who had risked everything to set their people free. Jake stood up and, for the first time in his life, felt truly human. The galaxy had just become a very different place. Jake stood in the research lab, feeling like he was seeing the world for the first time. Colors seemed brighter, sounds were clearer, and he could sense energy patterns he had never noticed before. But more than that, he felt a connection to something vast and ancient, the collective memory of his species. Lisa watched him carefully, ready to help if the genetic awakening became too much for him to handle. How do you feel? She asked. Jake looked at his hands and saw tiny sparks of energy dancing between his fingers. I feel like I've been asleep my whole life, and now I'm finally awake. He looked at Lisa with new respect. How long have you known the truth? 6 months, Lisa said. I accidentally triggered my own awakening while studying human genetics. The first few weeks were terrifying. I thought I was going insane. But then I realized what I was experiencing. I was remembering what our species used to be. Jake nodded, understanding flooding through him. The Council's files on human targets. They weren't criminals, were they? They were people who were starting to remember. Most of them, Lisa confirmed. When humans begin to awaken naturally, they often start asking questions about the galaxy's history. They begin to see through the Council's lies. So the Council labels them as terrorists and sends hunters like you to eliminate them. Jake felt a deep anger building inside him, but it was different from the cold fury he had felt as a hunter. This was the righteous anger of someone who had discovered a great injustice. How many are there? How many humans have been awakened? I don't know exactly, but I estimate there are several thousand across the galaxy. Most of them are hiding, trying to avoid the Council's attention. Some are trying to awaken others, but it's dangerous work. Jake's enhanced senses suddenly picked up something alarming. We need to leave. Now. I can sense ships approaching the station. Lisa quickly gathered her research data and loaded it into a portable device. The Council found us? Admiral Vex is leading a strike force, Jake said, his awakened abilities allowing him to sense the approaching ships, even through the vacuum of space. They're planning to destroy the station with us inside it. They ran through the corridors of the abandoned station, heading for their ships. Jake's newly awakened abilities made him faster and more aware than ever before. He could sense the layout of the station, the positions of the incoming ships, and even the emotional states of the soldiers aboard them. There, Jake said, pointing to a maintenance shaft. We can reach the docking bay through there without being detected. As they crawled through the narrow shaft, Lisa asked, "What changed your mind? Why did you decide to help me instead of completing your mission?" Jake paused, considering the question. I realized I had been hunting my own people. The Council had turned me into a weapon against my own species. Everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. They reached the docking bay just as the Council ships surrounded the station. Jake could see Admiral Vex's flagship through the windows, its weapons charging for an attack. They're going to destroy the station whether we're here or not, Jake said. They can't risk this information getting out. Lisa looked at her research data. This can't be lost. It's the key to freeing our entire species. Jake made a decision. Take your ship and go. I'll hold them off as long as I can. No, Lisa said firmly. We go together or we don't go at all. Our species has spent too long fighting alone. Jake felt something he had never experienced before, the certainty that he was not alone in the galaxy. There were others like him, others who could become like him, and together they could face any challenge. Then we both go, Jake said. But we're going to need help. Jake activated his ship's communication system and sent out a signal on a frequency he had never used before. Somehow, he knew it was the right frequency, the one that awakened humans would recognize. This is Jake Morrison, he said into the communicator. I was an enhanced human hunter for the Council. I have just learned the truth about our species, and I need help. If there are any awakened humans within range of this signal, please respond. For a moment, it was only static. Then voices began to answer. First one, then several, then dozens. Awakened humans from across the Vega system were responding to his call. Jake Morrison, this is Captain Amy Foster of the merchant vessel Blue Dawn. I awakened 3 years ago and have been hiding ever since. What do you need? This is Dr. Kevin. Lou on the research station at Vega Prime. I've been working to awaken other humans in secret. How can we help? Jake, this is Maria Santos. I command a small fleet of awakened humans. We've been waiting for someone like you to make contact. Jake felt amazed. There were so many of them, and they had been watching, waiting, hoping for a chance to work together. The Council has found us, Jake said. They're about to destroy Vega Station. to prevent the truth from spreading. We need to escape, but more importantly, we need to make sure this information reaches every human in the galaxy. We're on our way, came the reply from multiple voices. Hold position as long as you can. Admiral Vex's voice suddenly cut through. The communication channel. Jake Morrison, you are committing treason against the Galactic Council. Surrender now, and your punishment will be swift. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. He opened a channel to respond to Vex. Admiral, I have committed no treason. I have simply learned the truth about what you and the Council have been doing to my species. You are the criminals here, not us. You have been contaminated by terrorists. Propaganda, Vex replied. Report to my ship immediately for reconditioning. Jake almost laughed. Reconditioning? You mean more genetic suppression? More lies? I don't think so. The first of the awakened human ships appeared on the scanner, followed by several more. Within minutes, a small fleet had assembled around the station. Jake had never seen so many human-controlled vessels in one place. Council fleet, this is Captain Amy Foster, came the voice over the communication system. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Withdraw immediately. Admiral Vex's response was to order his ships to attack. The battle that followed was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. The awakened humans fought with a coordination and skill that seemed impossible. They moved their ships as if they were extensions of their own bodies, and they seemed to know what their enemies were going to do before they did it. Jake realized that this was what humans were, capable of when they worked together with their full abilities. They weren't just individuals. They were part of a collective consciousness that allowed them to function as a perfect team. The Council ships, despite their superior numbers and firepower, were quickly overwhelmed. Admiral Vex's flagship was disabled, and the remaining ships retreated in confusion. This is impossible, came Vex's voice over the communication channel. Humans can't coordinate like this. You're not capable of this level of organization. We're not the same species you thought you were controlling, Jake replied. We're something much more than you ever imagined. Lisa was already uploading her research data to the other ships. The genetic key is being distributed now, she announced. Every awakened human will have the ability to help others remember who they really are. Jake felt a profound sense of hope for the first time in his life. The Council had spent centuries keeping humanity suppressed, but now the truth was spreading. Soon, every human in the galaxy would have the chance to remember their true heritage. What happens now? Lisa asked. Jake looked at the assembled fleet of awakened humans and felt the connection that bound them all together. Now we find the others. We find every human in the galaxy and give them the choice to remember. We give them the chance to become what they were always meant to be. Captain. Foster's voice came over the communication system. Jake, we've been waiting for someone like you, someone who could unite us. Will you help us lead the awakening? Jake looked at Lisa, who smiled and nodded. We'll do it together, he said. All of us? Because that's what humans do. We work together to build something better. The fleet of awakened humans set course for the Outer Rim territories, where the largest human populations lived. The age of suppression was ending, and the age of awakening had begun. 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Liberation, a massive ship built by awakened humans using recovered architect technology. Through the main view screen, he could see the blue and green world of New Terra, one of the largest human colonies in the galaxy. The awakening had spread faster than anyone had expected. When humans learned the truth about their heritage, most chose to undergo the genetic treatment. Word spread through families, communities, and entire worlds. The Council's attempts to stop the awakening had only made it spread faster. Lisa worked at a science station nearby, coordinating with awakening centers across the galaxy. Jake We're receiving reports from the Outer Rim. 3 more human colonies have completed their awakening procedures. That brings our total to over 200 worlds. Jake nodded, but his attention was focused on something else. His enhanced senses could detect Council ships gathering at the edge of the system. Admiral Vex had been building a massive fleet. For months, preparing for one final assault against the awakened humans. "How many ships are they bringing?" asked Captain Amy Foster, who had become Jake's second-in-command. Jake concentrated, reaching out with abilities he was still learning to understand. "Over 1,000 ships. Vex has gathered forces from across the galaxy. This isn't just an attack. It's an attempt to destroy every awakened human in existence." Lisa looked up from her station. The Council must be desperate. They know that once the awakening spreads to all human worlds, they'll lose control of the galaxy. Jake felt the familiar cold sensation in his chest. But this time, it wasn't the hunter's instinct the Council had programmed into him. It was the protective instinct of someone defending his family and his species. "Send word to all awakened human fleets," Jake ordered. "Tell them to converge on New Terra. If the Council wants a final battle, we'll give them one." Over the next few hours, ships began arriving from across the galaxy. But these weren't just human vessels. The awakening had inspired other species as well. Alien races that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries saw the awakened humans. As their chants for freedom, Captain Foster reported the incoming fleet numbers. "Jake, we have 500 human ships, but that's not all. The Altarians have sent 200 vessels. The Centauri Federation is bringing 100 ships. Even some of the smaller species are sending what they can." Jake was amazed. The Council had ruled through fear and division, keeping different species separated and suspicious of each other. But the awakened humans had shown that cooperation was possible, and other species wanted to be part of that future. Dr. Kevin Liu, who had become the chief scientist of the awakening movement, approached Jake with important news. "Jake, I've been studying the architect ruins we found on Vega Prime. I think I know why the Council is so afraid of awakened humans." "Tell me," Jake said. "The architects didn't just rule the galaxy through superior technology," Liu explained. "They had the ability to communicate with other species on a genetic level. They could understand the needs and desires of any living being and help them develop their full potential." Jake began to understand. The Council isn't just afraid of losing political power. They're afraid that awakened humans will help other species evolve beyond the Council's ability to control them. "Exactly," Liu said. "An awakened human can help any species unlock abilities they never knew they had. We're not just becoming more powerful ourselves. We're becoming the key to galactic evolution." The first Council ships appeared at the edge of the system, and Admiral Vex opened a communication channel. His voice filled the bridge of the liberation. "Jake Morrison, you have corrupted the natural order of the galaxy. The Council gave your species purpose and direction. We made you useful. Now you threaten the stability that has kept peace for thousands of years." Jake activated the response channel. "Admiral, you didn't give us purpose. You stole our purpose. You took a species of guardians and protectors and turned us into weapons. The peace you created was built on lies and oppression. Humanity is a young, violent species," Vex replied. "We guided your development to prevent you from destroying yourselves and others. You should be grateful for our control." Jake felt the collective consciousness of the awakened humans around him. They were all connected now, sharing thoughts and emotions across vast distances. He could feel their determination, their hope, and their absolute certainty that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. "Admiral, I want to show you what humanity really is," Jake said. He reached out through the collective consciousness and connected with every awakened human in the system. Together, They projected their shared memories and experiences toward the Council fleet. They showed the Council what humans had been like before the genetic suppression, a species of healers, teachers, and protectors who had helped guide the development of countless other races. The effect on the Council forces was immediate and profound. Many of the alien soldiers serving in the Council fleet began to remember stories from their own species' histories, stories of benevolent beings who had helped their ancestors long ago. They realized that those beings had been the original humans, the architects. Several Council ships stopped their attack and began broadcasting surrender messages. Their crews no longer wanted to fight against the descendants of the species that had once helped their own people achieve greatness. Admiral Vex's voice came over the communication channel again, but this time it sounded uncertain. "This is impossible. You're manipulating their minds somehow." "We're not manipulating anyone," Jake replied. "We're simply showing them the truth. Your empire was built on making everyone forget their real history. But memory is stronger than fear. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The awakened humans didn't fight to destroy their enemies. They fought to awaken them. Every time they disabled a Council ship, they reached out to its crew and showed them the true history of the galaxy. One by one, entire fleets began to switch sides. Species that had served the Council for generations suddenly remembered what they had lost under the Council's rule. They remembered their own potential, their own dreams, and their own desire for freedom. Admiral Vex made one last desperate attempt to stop the awakening. He ordered his flagship to ram the Liberation, hoping to kill Jake and Lisa and stop the human awakening movement. But Jake was no longer the same person who had once served the Council. He reached out with his awakened abilities and connected with Vex's mind, showing him the Admiral's own suppressed memories. Vex saw himself as a young alien who had once dreamed of exploring the galaxy and helping other species grow and develop. He saw how the Council had gradually corrupted those dreams, turning him into an instrument of oppression. The Admiral's ship stopped its attack. Vex's voice came over the communication channel one last time, but now it was filled with wonder instead of anger. "I remember," Vex said softly. "I remember what I wanted to be before the Council changed me. I remember my people's true history." Jake felt a profound sense of completion. The hunter had become the healer. The weapon had become the guardian. The species that had been forced to forget its purpose had finally remembered what it was meant to do. Lisa approached Jake on the bridge, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. The woman he had been sent to kill had become the key to his species' salvation. The predator who had been ordered to destroy her had instead chosen to kneel before her wisdom. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the fleet of ships. That now represented dozens of species working together for the first time in millennia. "Now we do what the architects were meant to do. We help every species in the galaxy remember who they really are and what they're capable of becoming." Captain Foster reported from her station. "Jake, we're receiving surrender messages from Council strongholds across the galaxy. The awakening has spread beyond just humans. Entire species are remembering their true potential." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the joy of possibility in equal measure. "Send word to all worlds. The age of suppression is over. The age of awakening has begun. Every species, every individual, now has the chance to become what they were always meant to be." As the Liberation led the combined fleet toward the Council's capital world, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had begun as a weapon designed to hunt and kill his own people. He had ended as a guardian working to protect and awaken all the peoples of the galaxy. The apex predator had been told to kill her. Instead, he had kneeled before her. And in that moment of recognition and choice, the galaxy had changed forever. The universe was about to discover what was possible when beings worked together with their full Potential unleashed. The hunt was over. The awakening had begun.